Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Ramadan Mubarak. This screenshot that I took, was from The Economist, and it was phrased in a way that shows you how much liberals really resent motherhood and stay-at-home moms. Because they title it How Motherhood Hurts Careers instead of How Careers Hurt Motherhood. And it's this subtle propaganda against women staying home with their kids and against the mother and child bond. And it puts the career as this really enshrined golden idol, because it makes a woman think that her child having memories with her, being there to enjoy those brief moments, that it's not worth it. That the career is going to feed her soul and make her feel more important. The awkward part is that when you raise your children, and your preteen phase arises, you'll begin to see your child drift away from you, and as they become teenagers and then adults, they fly the nest. But in those precious moments when your children are small and they need you, you will never experience a more pure form of love. And so outlets like The Economist do not value the spiritual connection between a mother and child, and their propaganda and hatred for a woman being able to stay with her child is quite evident, regardless of how they mask it in highfalutin rhetoric. Because it's plain as day that the feminists are very resentful towards stay-at-home moms, and they fearmonger against it. And women like Hillary Crowder don't help women really in terms of divorce and relationships and whatnot, because of the way their greed gets in the way of their humanity and graciousness. So there's a lot of scare tactics around, well, if you don't have a career, what will you do for your children? But there's very little talk from the feminists about how can you be a really present, energized mom when you come home burnt out and tired from the grind at work. Headlines like this are one of the main reasons why I constantly talk about motherhood and lead by example and try to put the solutions out there for women as much as they can. As much as I can. Because the career aspect that comes into play when you see headlines like this, it really tries to minimize the effort that present mothers put in when it comes to how they help their children and how the child needs their mom. But child doesn't need you to have a career. If you want to have a lot of material items and you don't want your husband to work, then that path is yours. Do you see what I'm trying to say? For example, some women will feel bad that their husband has to get a second or third job, so they go work and they put their kid in a daycare. When it can be, okay, let the man work, have the gender roles, and you be with your children for the brief time that they are small. Because them being small goes by very fast. And if you think that you're gonna be sleep deprived and then have to go to work the next day, that you're not gonna be double tired, you're lying to yourself. Because if stay-at-home mom is tired, if you're a working mom and you got the stress of work on top of being sleep deprived, and then you come home, you're gonna be more snappy with your kids, less attentive, less present, more with this cloud of brain fog. You're not going to be your best version of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with taking a pause in what you think is your career. And what's really cute is when I see like reels on Instagram where a baby is like, the mom is holding the baby's hands and they're typing an email and it says, "To whom it may concern, my mommy's not going back to work. She's gonna stay here, da 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 da." And it's really cute where these moms are waking up and realizing that the stupid office desk job, whatever it is, it can wait. Like, women will rush back to a restaurant job and give up precious memories with their children. And when your children move away, and maybe something goes wrong later in your relationship where you're not as close, the memories of them being small is what's going to help you to get through some dark stages in life, right? Your child will be precious, and their innocence and their laughter can help make you feel like everything's worthwhile. And a lot of moms report missing their kids at work. It's rough. And so, who really cares about your career? You know, are you going to be judged for that? It's nice to have ambitions and goals, but at what cost? One must ask themselves, what's going to give you more satisfaction? What will you be pleased with more? And you're going to have tons of time when you're old to do that kind of stuff. I think it's a trick that society plays on women, that there's no honor in earning something when you're old, that there's only honor in it when you're young. And I think that's a grave mistake. Your children need you. A nanny cannot replace you. A daycare cannot do your job. And time again, we're seeing more crime cases where daycare workers are taking pictures of the children while they're on the toilet and putting them online. You see a lot of degenerates sneaking their way into daycares. And this is a grave problem. If you recall how many times I've posted abuse factors going on in these daycare centers, right? From fellow kids there and from staff. So it's important for people to remember that you chasing your career and stuffing your kid in a daycare, you could put your kid in harm's way for your own selfish desires instead of putting your career to the side. It's a noble thing to lay down your crown and to tend to your children and to be there for them. They need you. Your child will benefit more from your presence than your job will benefit you. Think about it. The customers, they don't care whether you live or die. You're just there to do your job. Your child, though, is thinking about you. When they cry, they're asking for you. When you come home, they're happy to see you. Who loves and needs you more? Who appreciates you more? It's your child. And there's nothing wrong with not having fancy clothes and being minimalistic. Think about it. Your child, for 18 years is not very long. So let's say you start working when your kid's in high school, right? You got maybe, let's say, 16 years with them. Even 10 years. That goes by pretty fast. And then you have so many other years, inshallah, to go and chase a career and flex on your ego. Because a lot of the careerism is ego, where you want to compete with men and you want to show other women that you're smart and capable and that you want to feel important, like you have value. That the career somehow legitimizes your existence on this planet. If it really was just about you helping humanity, then you would actually see that your duty first is to your children. Because how can you say you're trying to help humanity but then neglect your children? That's what I don't get. And if you want to neglect your children in order to serve humanity, then you must know that you chose wrong. Your children are your first priority. Money often separates the mother from the child, and there are so many ways a mother can stabilize her mind and fortify it. As a stay-at-home mom, it's really difficult for women to cope with motherhood and the career at the same time, and a lot of them turn to intoxicants, which ruins their health and makes them worse mothers. and worse employees. That amount of stress can really make someone spiral. And so when you come across terrible liberal outlets, and even some conservative ones now are not really being conservative, they are framing stay-at-home moms as leeches and not valuable, and that mothers are not essential, and that a career is how you measure a woman, not her capacity of being a good mom. And I think it's important for us to reframe that and always say, a woman being a good mom is more important. Doesn't mean you can't go for your career later. It just means that you are mature and understand that little soul needs you. Your little child needs you. And it may be difficult, but work is also difficult. So choose which difficult path you want. But later, if you neglect your child, and then they stuff you in an old folks' home, and they don't really bring the grandkids around you, you weren't really there for them. And then you're lonely, and now all you have is work, and those late nights pushing papers aren't going to feel as satisfying as spending time with your grandchildren who love you. Think about it. Motherhood doesn't hurt careers. Careers hurt motherhood. And you have to make your choice. And you have to be able to live with the consequences. I think it's very important for you to embrace your children, love them. It's stressful. You'll need breaks sometimes. You want to do crafts and hobbies, outdoor stuff, indoor stuff, you name it. You'll find ways to have fun and to still gain knowledge. But you don't have to let LinkedIn boss babes make you feel like you're a failure at life because you didn't reach the status they did. Credentialism is just flexing of the ego, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still going to judge us for what we did in life. So if you got up in this career field, you neglected your husband, your wifely duties, you neglected your children, but you only served the god of fiat currency, let's put it that way, right? You worshipped the almighty dollar, you served it, you broke your back for it, and your reward is just material objects. Well, you can't take any of that with you to the grave. But the trauma that you gave to your kids because you weren't around to protect them, to guide them, to educate them, to put good values in them because you were chasing the dollar, well, that's generational trauma, isn't it? So you not being around, it's going to affect other generations. Be there, be present. You can still have human dignity even if you don't have a career. Women just have to start being bold in the face of the careerist types because they try to shame you into not having what they have. There's a competition there. People will compete in everything, and even when you're around the careerist types, even if you went to Columbia, they'll judge you for not going to Cornell. They're always going to find a way to diminish you because they have to in order to feel superior. It's just a bunch of crabs pinching each other in a bucket, trying to be better than the other. And so, why even compete in that arena? You can feel proud that, oh, I have a PhD and forwarded this, and I did that. Someone else can say, well, why don't you have 7 degrees? Why do you only have 5? No matter what, they're always going to try to find a way to reduce your success. And once you realize that, you're like, is it wise for you to give up time with your children so that you can try to gain a career in order to be validated by strangers? Your child should validate you. You were given the opportunity to be fertile. You were given the opportunity to have children. And that is a mighty gift. Don't waste it by trying to get validation from the corporate structure. When the corporate structure is not a spiritual thing, it's actually a soul-sucking, dead-end job, if you really look at it. An efficient corporation has to be able to replace employees quickly if they want to stay competitive in the market. And I remember seeing a post that said a woman, she died and she was saving her vacation days and putting her 401k away, all the extra hours she put in, and she died. She wasn't able to use any of that, so she neglected time with her family in order to have these future results and goals that she never got it. And that's something very important for women to realize. The liberal atheist, progressive boss babe doesn't think about, death like we do. And we as Muslim women say, tomorrow isn't guaranteed to anybody. You are not guaranteed anything besides death in this world, and that you will be judged for what you did on this planet. And Allah is swift in accounting, most just. So, your children are a direct reflection of your priorities. And if a job got you as a mom to neglect your kids in order to chase the career they won, you lost. You just can't see it. Because if someone hands you a mountain of gold and then time with your kid, you chose the gold. And the gold doesn't love you. But your child does. Now you can push them away by constantly neglecting them. But when they're young, you're a hero. And that's very valuable. And value in and of itself varies from subject to subject. And your children are very important in terms of your value as a mom. Because you have to understand that they need you. They just like your company, They follow you around. They like you. They're excited to see you. As they get older, they fly the nest. That's when you can dedicate your free time during your empty nest period, when they start their own families. It's a mistake for us to listen to the liberal, atheist, boss babes who tell you to put off motherhood, and then those same types of women scramble for IVF fertility treatments. And then even when they get the baby, when they've had kids in their 40s, the kid's with a nanny. And they sleep in a separate room, and it's very cold. And then when their kid is 40, they're 80, they're not as young to help with grandchildren. Life is quite short. And you want to be able to be there for them, to make them feel safe with you, to make them feel heard, to pass on your wisdom that you have. You can't do that from the career. The school already takes them away from you. Why let a career take more time away? It's really important for women to start valuing the time they have with their children. I think it's really important for women to consider what's gonna make them feel satisfied. When they're old, are you gonna think about the deals you made, the vacations you took, or are you gonna think about the funny things that your kid did? Look at your personality. Your personality may not want kids, but for those who do want children, there is zero shame in putting the career aside and enjoying your brief moment under the sun that is motherhood. It's brief. And some women, their children pass away, may Allah protect us. Think about it. If you were a mom who went and chased your career and your kid passed away while young, you will look back and wish you would have spent more time with them. That's a real thing. Something to think about. Something really to think about. So don't fall for the Economist's anti-motherhood propaganda. There's a lot of it. They're doing this more and more now because they can see that the tradcon movement is bubbling up. It's bubbling up. A lot of people are deciding that they don't want to just be contributors to the GDP, and the government, which needs lots of money in order to form its military-industrial complex and maintain its military-based empire. They need as many people in the workforce as possible so that they can get tax revenue, right? They don't care about the health of the citizens. They just see us as, tax cattle for them. So don't let them fool you. And the people who run these journalist centers and news media outlets, they're all very decadent, out of touch with the common condition. They're not very spiritual or wise. So it's something to think about. Let me know what you think, and I really encourage more people to openly embrace the virtues of motherhood and all that entails. I try to do it quite a lot. I have a motherhood playlist that if you want to take a look at. I also write a lot of the motherly stuff on my blog, which is www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. I write a lot there, so if you're into reading, that's a good place to start. And let me know what you think. Type it down below. And I'm still fundraising for the book holder, about 1/4 way there, and the wood panel. So if you want to contribute to that, you can do so via my blog, and you'll get access to lots of the other stuff that I've written on there. Tons of topics. You'll be surprised if you type in keywords, So consider that, and take care.